Hola, minasan. Hola, minasan, and yokoso to whatever this is going to be. Yeah, anyway, it's fine. So last live, there was the last live. And today, I don't know if it's I slept well enough. I don't know if it's more of a habit when I'm back to go live. I don't know. Welcome to It Is When It Is Tarot, where it is when it is and it ain't when it ain't. And sometimes it's like literally every day or every other day. But I actually kind of want to dig into. I know it's not going to be exhaustive at all. Meaning, well, I guess depending on how the cards come out, maybe it'll be like a theme or something generalizable and not necessarily specific. But I was curious about the vessel, the purification of the vessel, and stuff like that. Right. So I have the decks out that I'm going to use. Oops. And most of them are still in their boxes. So I'm going to pull them out. I know. I don't know what I don't know. This just felt like the vibe today. So it's what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's whatever. It's fine. Um, yeah, we'll just go with it. It's gonna take me a little bit longer. So if you are watching this back, then you can fast forward. If you're watching live, feel free to step out. I'm using the Osho Zen Tarot, the Gilded Reverie Lenormand, the Spirit Keepers Tarot Revelations Edition, the Fable Makers Animated Tarot, and the Wild Unknown Tarot. So, the Fable Makers Animated Tarot, Wild Unknown Tarot, and Spirit Keepers Tarot to link um, the Destroyer in the. Actually, I'm gonna grab the. Come on, come on. Oof. I'm gonna grab the Revelations edition too. Or yeah, no, the Vitruvian edition. I'm gonna grab this too for like a patron, whoever. And now the cards in the SKT, especially the Vitruvian edition, I dove a little bit deeper into that book of maps. I didn't dive into the Revelations edition as much, which means I should probably get it pulled up. They have spirits associated with the cards, and the spirits have the title of the card. So, like the Destroyer, the spirit associated with that is the Destroyer, right? And the reason why I'm pulling that is because if the Ivory Shield comes out, then I'm not going to do anything. And this will be a very short live or a relatively shorter live. Um, and again, she's my BTFU, STFU Mind Your Business Queen. So just in case I'm like not supposed to be doing this and supposed to leave well enough alone, and then I'm giving her the opportunity to be like, okay, back up. You know, I don't know. I like having contingencies like that. But I'm also not the type of person that has to like know everything or read into everything. You know what I mean? Of course, I have a healthy dose of curiosity, but I can also appreciate when not knowing is more important, as someone who has grown in spaces and ways that I could never imagine by doing things that I didn't want to do and discovering all kinds of things. I don't know. It's kind of wild how, I don't know, like, there's been, so I did an extended trip this time, right? And when I flew back in the new year, I flew back on a one way ticket. I didn't know when I was coming home. I like booked my travel notices, or I like informed my travel notices up to March because I was like, that's like 2 months from now. I went until May. Um, but there were a lot of like not necessarily, there was a lot of not necessarily subtle prodding in the beginning of the trip that paved the way and set a foundation for discoveries later, for connections later, and experiences later that led to discoveries that, like, I don't know. I feel like a different person. I feel like I shed a lot of unnecessary things. Um, and I also realized how much I've carried in these past few years, or how jaded I had almost become. And in that, it's like I had gotten away from the a truer essence of me, right? And it happened like so slowly and so subtly over the course of years that I didn't even really realize it until I did. Okay. So I'm still figuring out how I want to do this. I should probably write it down, but I'm not going to. I will. Because I don't want to forget. So, what I'm doing um, is I'm going to look before and after the book. I was wanting to use a Lenormand. And then I was like, I want to use a deck from the third drawer. The deck that immediately caught my attention in the third drawer was the Osho's and Tarot. And I had to move something to get to the Osho's and Tarot. And it was the Gilded Reverie Lenormand. I was like, perfect. Because when I was like, I want to use a Lenormand, but I don't know why, I was like, well, I can look before and after the book as like the front cover and the back cover, right? So it doesn't, you can't judge a book by its cover, for one, but it doesn't necessarily spoil the contents of the book, right? Because if you can read it or infer it from the cover, it was probably intentional. Now, there again, you can't judge a book by its cover, and there's still an element of discernment that needs to be applied as you're reading, because the cover, the title could be intentionally misleading in a way to like set up a twist or whatever, you know what I mean? Or it could be intentionally like direct. So yeah, that's why I'm doing the book. I'm doing the Destroyer because it's the purification of the vessel. I'm doing the and it's specifically the Destroyer and the Revelations edition. I already said why I'm doing the Vitruvian edition for the Ivory Shield. I'm doing the Wild Unknown Tarot for the Seven of Swords, which is the card of birthright for me. And I'm doing the Fable Maker's Animated Tarot. I think I'm going to pull through. Oh, I don't have to think. Because I also pulled this out of the drawer. I pulled this out of the drawer. And I ordered two of them. And I've been looking at the other one like, oh, I kind of want to play with it. But I was like, And then when I opened the third drawer, I saw this. So I'm going to use the D4. Okay. We're going to do a D4. If it's even, it's 4. If it's odd, it's 6. Even is 4. It's 2. So yeah, I'm going to spin this and do the D4. Although, if I ask Google, it would be quicker. Because this, it spins for a while. Even with the slightest, I guess I can do that. Yeah, why not? Um, so I'm going to spin for a D4. to get 1 to 4 deck dungeon challenges, right? Now, the deck dungeon challenges actually, thematically, it would make sense to do 6 because there are 6 swords and the fox hides the 7th. But you could also argue that, you know, contextually, it may be more appropriate to do like 7, and then at the 8th, something more would unlock, right? Because the spirituality of 7 almost like encompasses everything. You could argue that the spirituality of a 7 encompasses everything on earth within the realm of the capability of human understanding. And once you hit the 8th, that's when you go beyond. And beyond could be like in a soul based understanding rather than a contextual, this is how I interact with the world, more tactile understanding. Right. Soul to energy to divinity, the divine. But the thing said 4, so I'll do 4. Not everything need be revealed, right? Right. So I'm gonna spin it and we'll do up to 4. I'm gonna pull 4 deck dungeon challenges. And then I said I would write this down, didn't I? I don't think I need to. And then I think I have the Osho Zen Tarot to clarify. Right? Right. Cool. So, depending on how quickly these go, I could do like at least 2. I'll probably do 1 and see where the time is. Today is one of those days where I feel like I could be live for hours, but today is also one of those days where I know that I won't be. so, yeah. And the reason why I didn't see, like, I started to get all the cards ready and stuff before, but sometimes for me, the preparation is a part of the whole experience, right? Sometimes it's the preparation and the tear down, right? I'll get the final cards. I almost always get final cards, but sometimes like also putting everything in its box and putting it away is also part of it. And it's just vibes. We operate off of vibes over here. So this deck is already out. We'll do the Osho Zen Tarot next. And I think I'll keep the book out. Why not? I would love to. Honestly, I would love to do the I Ching. I would love to I Ching this, but to do it where change is possible. Right. I Ching hexagram is made up of 6 either solid or broken lines, symbolizing yin and yang, right? And when you properly cast the I Ching, it's possible for lines to change. So you could cast a line as yin, but then it changes to yang. And so your I Ching hexagram can actually change, right? And in the comprehensive, girl, this is me barely knowing anything. So comprehensive is a relative term. But in the comprehensive book of changes, there's also a meaning associated to like each line changing. So I've done it maybe once or twice where I've cast it, I'll read it, we'll read the lines that change, and then we read the new one. Also, there are 6 lines in a I Ching hexagram, and there were 6 swords above the fox. Mm. And I could use the Osho Zen Tarot to do that. I could do like even as yin, no, even as, yeah, even as yin, odd as yang. And then if it's a major arcana, it changes. Am I going to do that? See, that makes this even longer. No, I won't. If I want to do that, I will just um roll flip 3 coins. I could make a program to flip 3 coins. Is that going to be my next project? That might be my next Python project. Like how I have the one that rolls the dice. I could have one that like flips 3 coins 6 times and gives like an I Ching hexagram number, and then the changing lines, and then the new one. I think I might do that. It'll be something to pass the time, right? Cool. So I have that pulled up, and I guess I'll just do it 6 times. We'll see. We'll see how far we get. We shall see. Fighting and the burden. As I look at them, they're facing each other. I guess they're like that when I look at them. But when I show you like this, they're facing opposite directions, with the burden looking the same way the fire ants were facing, and fighting looking the same way that the lamb was facing, or that was on the lamb side. And we'll just see what's up. 2 cards flipped over. Ooh. This new vision, I wonder, that couldn't have been intentional because that's across different decks. This new vision looks very much like the Vision Quest in the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. Also, we got 2 majors, 3 and 13, which are both 3. There's this 3-3 between creativity and new vision. Interesting. Bottom of the deck is participation. 4 of Wands. Oh. Cool. I feel like I should. No, the preparation is a part of it. I was gonna say I feel like I should get the SKT card first, because if the Ivory Shield comes out, then there's gonna be no point to like any of this because I'm not gonna do it. But the preparation is a part of it, so I'm not gonna rush to find out whether or not I'm wasting my time. Right? Because we don't know until we know, right? Now, this deck, the cards are thick enough that it's like massive. And also, I put sleeve protectors on them, card sleeves on the cards to maintain the integrity of the image. But I kind of want to put them all together. But it is a bit unwieldy. Actually, we'll attempt it. It is a bit unwieldy, though. And also, for the surface that I'm using, it's not like level enough to be nice. Like the cards will tilt and potentially fall. And I am not trying to hunt for cards today. Hunt on the floor, or the, yeah, no, nah. But I could just like do one of these, and oh, okay, yeah, that could work. She said I'd work. The Devil is the card that flipped over. Why? Major Arcana don't give challenges, they give boons. The bottom of the deck is the Three of Pentacles. We already had two threes, right? Creativity and a new vision. The Devil and the Three of Pentacles, it feels like it's this energy of things, and then the Lovers, interesting, and the Hierophant. Oh, with the Queen of Wands under that, and what looked like the Moon, but it's probably the Eight of Swords. Yes, the Eight of Swords. Interesting. Three of Pentacles, the Lovers, and the Hierophant. Um, the I'm like, where do I put the cards? Hey, it's fairly stable. It feels like there are things within ourselves that we have restricted, that are off limits, some probably locked off by guilt, shame, or um, blame, or anything like that. Something that we've been told is unsavory. And it's interesting. I'm still listening to He Who Fights with Monsters, right? And the one of the characters have powers that are particularly gruesome and with a sense of inevitability and an inevitable doom or demise. And there was a recording of like a mock training session that they had. I mean, the training session was real, a mock fight. Um, and people are like, "Are you the guy with the evil powers? Are you the guy with the evil powers?" And he's like, "My powers aren't evil." Because powers aren't evil. And that's something that I've actually seen across a few shows within this year. It was like anime from last season. The powers aren't evil, it's how the person uses them. Now, are there some powers that tend to evil? Are there some powers that an ego can easily trip up in, or that the nature of the power and the condition of society sort of make an easier road towards evil? Of course. But ultimately, it's the person and how the power is used that determines it. And that's what this devil energy and the Three of Pentacles is kind of giving me. Right? It's like something within oneself that they've been told or that they feel is like not great. And it's almost like without that being a part of the equation, someone will never be whole because it's like it's a part of them. And again, it's to learn to use it in the right way. And maybe that's what this is, right? You could say that the Lovers in the Hierophant is using an evil power in the right way. If the oh look, even in the Hierophant. So imagine that these two people are the Lovers, and then there's the two before the Devil. Three of Pentacles being a like it's how you use it kind of energy. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this whole. Oh wait, I'm gonna do it like that. Then I guess I'll flip these over. And the dog is at the bottom. Number 18, which is the number of the moon. Cool. So that is these taken care of. I may keep this here because it's, well, no, if I'm keeping the cards together, then I'm not going to keep that there. Next, we move. I'm doing the Vitruvian edition last. Intentionally. Actually, I'm going to do the Vitruvian edition now. Because although I don't have to do whatever early to see if I'm going to quit, it's already, it's not, it's almost half an hour and we haven't even started. um, Although I'm not going to do it first to see if I'm wasting my time, I'm also not going to intentionally do it last. I'm going to do it in whatever order feels natural, right? And naturally, this would be the next deck that I go for. Cool. I think that's a thing about. Anyway, it's fine. I don't think that's necessarily relevant. Now I'm like thinking about the Ivory Shield. Feel like I might will it out of the deck just because. It's fine. Ooh, the Magus and the Stronghold of the Zephyrs. Divinity and man, powers of the spirit, and herald of the consummating. This could be consummating the union between man and spirit. Interesting. We did have the lovers before the Hierophant, too. And, just like with the whole evil powers thing, there are plenty of powers that would tend towards good that people use for evil. So the nature of the nature of the power and the power itself only says so much. It's about the person who wields it and how and why. And I guess you could say where and when. Interesting. So the shining flame, lightning in the pyre, lightning. Oh my gosh. You couldn't even read it because my finger was in the way. Lightning being the thing that, and the four of participation, the four of fire, is the same as that demiurge four of wands. It was lightning that inspired someone to truly be the creator of their own reality, however that plays out. And so it's interesting that lightning in the pyre shows up. And behind that is the golden shield, power and authority of fire. Lightning falls under the element of fire here. So I feel like that's low key a little bit of a go ahead. You know what I mean? Cool. Next is the SKT Revelations Edition. And then finally will be the Wild Unknown Tarot. And again, I'm going to get the SKT first. The Initiate and Hallowed Flame. Ace of Scepters, The Awakening. How interesting that we see these at the cut after we had the Knight of Wands and the Queen of Wands. The Initiate and the Hallowed Flame. The Initiate and the Hallowed Flame implies that the sword has been found. That was the story of the Archangel Commander for a few years. I feel like it was was it early 2020 or early 2021 when the Archangel Commander came out? And I'm not going to go through the whole story of the Archangel Commander again, but the Archangel Commander, oh my gosh, what? Maybe, I think that's no. Yeah, maybe it was just a confluence of things because the Seven of Swords was my card of birthright before I got the SKT. Anyway, in the Archangel Commander, there's something that we go to Archangel Michael for. Archangel Michael is like, handle it yourself. We handle it. Well, summarizing, right? We go to Archangel Michael for something. Archangel Michael is like, handle it yourself. We handle it. We go back to Archangel Michael, like, oh my gosh, like, probably looking like the Knight of Wands, all battered, beat up, bruised. Maybe not. And Archangel Michael is like, congratulations. Like, I knew you could do it. That's why I told you to handle it. But now it's time for you to learn to use your power. Right. And then it was like, Michael teaches you how to use your sword. That sword being the sword that you reclaim in the Seven of Swords from the Fox, the card of birthright. Also in the Initiate, which is not here anymore. But in the Initiate, I don't think I'm done shuffling. I just put the card down. In the Initiate, there is a fox that awakens and serves as familiar when you begin that journey. There's the Archangel Commander, by the way. Wow! Between the Chancellor and the Erudite, between Justice and the Hermit, sits the Archangel Commander. Interesting placement. She's like, yeah, I die. I'll show you the initiate really quick. Even though I did just show the card. The initiate and the that's why it's that the initiate and the sacred flame or the hallowed flame. I already forgot what it's called. It's like the sword has been found, but now um it's there was a time of learning. The time of learning may relatively be over. The time for doing may be now. It's all relative, right? That's why I say relatively over. There's the fox, literally in a very similar position to the Seven of Swords. And it awakens when you go down that initiatory path, right? And if the fox awakens, then, you get the sword because it's not sleeping on it anymore. Cool. So I'm like, there's all these little, like, yeah, okay. It's been 31 minutes and 11 seconds, and I'm still getting the cards out. But again, like I said, it felt like today the preparation was a part of it. So that's why we're doing this. I'll probably timestamp this one too. Just because, it took so long. Sometimes it's fine. Oh, look, the Hermit is still here from last time. The Hermit is the erudite. Justice in this deck is the black and white cat that flank the sword. See that? And then the 6 swords up here, I was like, that is kind of a I Ching hexagram, low key. I think it's the first one. Divine Yang? I think the solid lines are Yang lines. I don't remember. Oh, I didn't flip this card over. The 8 of Swords was at the cut with the 5 of Swords still at the bottom. That's interesting because the 8 of Swords was in the Fablemaker's animated tarot. And because of the coloring on the card, I thought it was the moon. But I was like, it's 8. The moon is 18. That has to be the 8 of Swords. Because the 8 of Cups may have that coloration, but the 8 of Pentacles and the 8 of Wands would not have that, like, dark, purpley sky. I like the 8 of Swords in this deck, though. It's because the caterpillar lived a life on the ground. The caterpillar lived a life subjected to gravity without the ability to defy it. And the butterfly doesn't live by that same limitation. The butterfly can fly. So if the caterpillar looks out of its chrysalis and sees those swords ready to impale it, there's a sense of impending doom or demise should it ever leave that cocoon. But the butterfly knows that it can just fly over the swords, girl. Like, hello? If you don't want to be impaled by the swords, then just fly. Don't fall. Which is low-key semi-ironic because I went on a walk the day before yesterday and I saw a dead bird on the side of the street. And it was like, it had feathers and stuff. It wasn't like a naked baby. So, cool. I mean, that's not cool, obviously. All of the cards are shuffled. The only book I have on the table is that for the Osho Zen Tarot. I also have the Vitruvian Book of Maps pulled up. And I should pull up the Fablemaker's animated tarot book to read the deck dungeon challenges. Yes, it's on this computer. Woo, woo, woo. I didn't know if I had it. I had a feeling like I did, but I didn't know if I did. I'm on the boons right now, so I'll just scroll down really quick. The boon of the devil is the party receives huge personal gains in wealth and power, but also gains new flaws, or the party gains advantage on all charisma deception checks. Huge personal gains in wealth and power, but also gaining new flaws. That's that whole, it's akin to like the people say absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's what power does to people. It is not, it's like it is not the nature of power to corrupt man. It is the nature of man to be corrupted by power, right? And that was the whole like devil with the three of pentacles with the lovers in the hierophant. Also, that feels like it's a part of this whole testing, proving, purging the vessel to receive this divine gift, right? I am going to have to use the restroom. So I'm going to step out and do that. And then I guess we're going to, well, before I do that, let's get all of these situated. Get them situated. And then I'm going to step out and use the restroom. And then I will come back and timestamp where the cards are all on the table. Oh, girl. Look, this is one deck. This is one deck of cards. Your standard tarot deck size. Oh, your standard tarot deck number. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the standard size. This can go. I have like a little space. So I also designate space. And I try to keep everything in the same relative area. So, all right, I'm gonna go to the restroom. I want to timestamp when we're ready to start, and then we'll get into it. I should probably mute my mic, right? Oof, but I may forget to unmute it. Oh my gosh. I literally said before I went to the bathroom, I was like, if I mute this, I'm going to forget to unmute it. I forgot to unmute it. Everything that happened between then and now, take it as it resonates if you watched it. Because I'm not going back. If it wasn't heard, apparently it wasn't meant to be. So everyone can thank Holly. The viewers of this can thank Holly for there being sound now. Hey, how you doing? I forgot to unmute the video. I know. Wow. And I did that before I did anything. Y'all can't hear nothing. Y'all ain't hearing nothing. Okay, well, the cards that are on the table, Apocalypse came out, so I will reread this, at least a part of it. Right. So back to the top of the entry in the Book of Maps. For Vitruvian Edition, Key 20 Apocalypse, Attribute Manifested, Epiphany and Announced, Theosophical Septenary is of the Astral, Saint Germain Key is Rising of the Dead, and the Path on Spirit's Journey is Higher Consciousness. Petition your Holy Guardian Angel and activate Key 20 to activate prophetic revelations through dreams or spiritual visions. Key 20 gives access to disclosures of divine knowledge, prophecies, and revelation. The initiate has just passed through the gateway of resurrection, come out the other side into the mystic light of the sun, and now judgment day has come. Here an awakening transpires, a time of reckoning when the initiate must account for actions and fulfill final obligations. The burning one, Lord of the gates of the universe, is represented in the key by a glyph of the Alpha and Omega, an apocalyptic omen of Christ consciousness and what is to come in Key 21, the world. Rendered in a glorious emerald, and by twin ibis heads that intertwine in a caduceus, the herald's wand, the sign of a divine message transmission. This is a syncretized reference to both Thoth and Hermes, right? So it was like I was pulling for the Ivory Shield is why I use this deck. And then I was like, well, here we have Divine Revelation. So all of the cards that came out up to this point, like the passage to initiation, the initiate, everything, I was like, okay, cool. Then when I was shuffling the Gilded Reverie Lenormand expanded edition, the magnifying glass came out. So it's like not only is a revelation going to be given or revealed, it's also open to be scrutinized. Like you can get details, right? Before and after the book were the bear and the clouds. I didn't pull the book for this, but 15 is interesting here that it's before because that was the major that came out in the Fable Makers Animated Tarot. Right. And usually the clouds obscure. I guess I kind of talked about that. Is it the nature of clouds or fog to obscure, or is it the limitation of human perception? Because fog is natural. It's a natural occurrence of things that, it's weather. Now, are there fog machines? Are there like smoke bombs? Sure. But those are things that play on the perception of people, which I guess is an interesting sort of question to have. Also, we have the magnifying glass. So, what may be obscured to others and what others may not be ready to yet see. Again, within this book, it's open to be scrutinized. The card just came out. Cool. Also, because you didn't hear any of this, I guess. I don't know how much, I don't remember. I don't know how much of this was prep and how much was the explanation. I timestamped the explanation, but there's no sound. Again, part of music, maybe I should honor it. You know what I mean? And I think I will. But to where we are now, I'll give some context, obviously. Yeah, the Ivory Shield, because that came out and like everything is about okay, like this is to be revealed. We actually at the bottom of the deck we saw the healer and the warrior. There's the master of the mystic light. There's the healer. The conservator is the one that usually withholds that information. the information of the book, but behind that is the Archangel of Mysteries, the Archangel that reveals it. I was also saying that the Ten of Pentacles and Judgment are the only two cards where we see a completed Kabbalah Tree of Life. It's seen in other cards, but it's not complete. One difference between Apocalypse, Last Judgment, is that we see the connection between Malkut and what's that, Netzah and Chesed. I know I'm going to butcher it, so that's the limit of how much I'm going to try. Those connections aren't here in the Dynasty Ten of Pentacles, and it's also in the hands of the Seeker here. And again, that kind of validated, clarified, resonates back to the Demiurge Four of Wands coming out as a result of the lightning, right? So yeah, it's definitely revealed. Cool, love it. All right, now we are as caught up as we need to be. I'm glad. Thanks again, Holly, because I said that before I went to the bathroom. I kind of got to go again. I've been drinking too much water this morning. I am overly hydrated. It's only been 50 minutes. It's only been 50 minutes and I got to go again. I guess I could just not mute. It's fine. I will. I'm gonna go to the restroom again. I'm gonna stop drinking the water. I think I'm hydrated enough, and I'm gonna reflect on. I'm kidding. Again, if it wasn't heard, it wasn't meant to be. I guess it was for me going through this. I have unmuted the video. I said that too. I was like, anyway, it's fine. All things for a purpose, for a reason. It was just a lot of validation and stuff like that. And with the recap, you know, oh, let me re-timestamp this. So I'll say 123.30. I should say 123.45. Unmuted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then after I'll go back and I guess just I can do this. I'll say muted polling and muted explanation. I guess if you want to see as I hold cards up and get what you get out of it, then you are free to. Cool. Now I'm looking for the Seven of Swords. Oh, also, I shuffled it. I'm pulling from the bottom. Seven of Wands with Temperance in the World. That's why I went back and I read the rest of that entry, or more of the entry. Look, there's a Lamb with 4 swords. We saw the lamb yesterday. Here's justice. The chancellor came out with something, and I mentioned justice in this deck being like two black and white cats, but then there's also the sword. Oh, it's because again, it's like it is not the nature of power to corrupt, it is within the nature of man to be corrupted by power. And that, like, between the devil and the three of pentacles and the lovers and the hierophant, it was like it's what we do with it rather than the thing itself. Because I'm listening to the audiobook. It is new moon, Gemini. This calendar has the lunations on it, so it's nice. I was like, is that today? And I looked on the calendar and I was like, yep, it is. New moon Gemini silencing me. I silenced myself. Anyway, the sword is in between them on neither side. And again, this is about taking the sword and using the sword. Oh, I went on the whole Archangel Commander thing. Yeah, it's fine. That's interesting. Judgment is with the Four of Pentacles here. But the Judgment here is in between the Three of Swords and the Four of Pentacles. It did come out because the dice was at the bottom of the deck, and when the magnifying glass came out, and it was the whole like it's a type of knowledge, access, power, whatever, that you don't gamble with on who gets access to it or not, which is why it's like a lot of the vetting happens on the front side, on the initiation side, on the trial side, rather than claiming it and then finding out how someone's going to use it, right? And it was also like extenuating circumstances. It was an acknowledgement that extenuating circumstances exist. There are plenty of people who would never steal, but when your belly is touching your back or your kids are gone hungry, you're going to do what you need to survive. But also, especially within the past few videos and even into last year, I believe, this is something that exists outside of earthly circumstance. And it's been in that, like, it is not the right of those who suffer or who find themselves in a place of misfortune to whatever this is. Suffering does not entitle anyone to anything because suffering is a universal sort of experience. It's universal and it's earthly and whatever, which is again why this is apparently like so scrutinizing. So for judgment here to be between the Three of Swords, recognizing like pain, especially emotionally, and the Four of Pentacles, what is withheld. Also, the Three of Swords in this deck for me, once we clear this Three of Swords, we get access to this corridor. It feels like these three swords block a corridor, probably within the self, which goes back to everything that you didn't hear earlier, but for me, I recognize as synchronicity. So, what's also, no, it was the Four of Swords. Never mind. Some of these are like sticking together today. Ooh, so the Seven of Swords is in between the Chariot and the Eight of Cups. The Chariot has the sun and the moon together on the same, the sun, the moon, and the pentacle all on the same vertical plane, roughly on the same vertical plane. And then we have the Eight of Cups after. The Seven of Pentacles is here. So the story of how the Seven of Swords came to be to represent birthright to me, the Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Wands, and Seven of Swords all came out at the same time when I was new to the cards, and that's the what it led to. And since it's always had that meaning. So for us to see both the Seven of Wands as the first card, look for the Seven of Swords, and then for the Seven of Pentacles to be right here on the outside. It's interesting. to me, at the very least. Also, in this Two of Swords that's before the Chariot, we see again this like alignment of the sun and the moon. But this time, instead of it being cross swords, the pentacle is also aligned, which again, for me, validates that whole like it is something that exists outside of earthly circumstance. And it almost has to, because life is so constantly life. You know what I mean? Imagine if someone were to come into a true facet or aspect of what is divine, and then they have a bad day or something happens to someone. Can you imagine? It's just like life on earth ends that day. Which is again why by the time it is bestowed or granted, it's not like a probably, hopefully, this is divine, the divine being like as sure as they can be, because humans are unpredictable. So as sure as they can be, um, that whatever, that the revelation of the thing will not bring dire consequence. Also, this is the last judgment, which is the final test, right? So the test comes in three parts: to get the sword, to learn to use the sword, to claim the sword. I guess you could say four parts: to claim the sword, learn to use the sword, and then develop the wisdom and discernment to do it wisely, to do so wisely, right? This could be a test of that wisdom. But anyway, so we have the Chariot and the Eight of Cups. I'm not surprised to see the Chariot here, because this is what initiates the pathway. Also, because of the first impression of the Devil and the Three of Pentacles and the Lovers and the Hierophant, like, to begin this initiation, this is someone who is already moving. Also, 7-7, right? We got 7-7 here. It's 6-6 around the book. Also, 6-6 and 8-8, because the book is 26 and the magnifying glass is 44. So for the magnifying glass to be something that can actually read the contents of the book, again, numerologically identical. So it makes sense. I wonder if that was intentional. Um, this initiation is like someone who's already well within balancing their own internal. Also, we saw yin yang and action in the energy oracle cards. That was like what gets someone recognized by spirit, right? We see the horse, the sun, and the moon. It was two horses in action, but this is one horse that is under both the sun and the moon. What's interesting, it's like this is someone who already moves as if they have something. Like someone who already, and again, that's why, so the ivory shield was between the Five of Wands and the Four of Swords. The ivory shield being the block. This would be blocked to anyone who is like competing or contending for power. And it was already came out as like the power that finds those that don't seek it, the authority and leadership that finds those who aren't interested necessarily in having authority or being a leader. It is those who seek it who are often the most easily corrupted by it, because it is often those who seek power, authority, or leadership that already have corruption that they're operating under. And they seek authority, power, and leadership to extend the scope and expand the range and scale of that corruption. But this, again, it's reading like something that finds someone who are operating, who are already operating as if they have it. Which, again, it's like because this is also connected to something that is like deeply internal, it would make sense. You know what I mean? Excuse me. The Eight of Cups on the other side of this, though. I guess this Eight of Cups could be, and it like this is something that is pure like conjecture. I could say conjecture. It's like in the media. I feel like even in like the text, like to successfully come out on the other end of this initiation, it's almost like someone would have to abandon their humanity. The Eight of Cups in its Rider Waite typical depiction is someone who is walking away, someone who abandons their humanity to embrace their divinity. Maybe that's more of like a Enochian case or Enochian, right? When Enoch became Metatron, then Enoch was no longer Enoch. Enoch was no longer human. He had become Archangel Metatron. I don't necessarily. Again, this is we've been in taken as a resonance territory. It's so like consistent, and especially last time unprovoked, that I'm like, why? Like, what is this? And I was saying that like I think I did this before I went to the bathroom. Yeah, I did because I was still shuffling the decks. I was contemplating pulling an I Ching hexagon. Six swords are lined out as I'm pretty sure that's divine yang. I think solid lines are yang, broken lines are. It's laid out like an I Ching hexagram. But then to receive this severed, to have seven lines, a septagram rather than a hexagram, is to transcend. In transcendence, something is left behind. I feel like this deck dungeon challenge is going to be interesting. I feel like it would eat all boons, but we'll see. Where's the D4? The D4 is the closest. I'm going to give this a light spin where I can see it because it will spin forever. Four. There are four challenges, which is the maximum number, by the way. 4 out of 4. 4 out of 4, and we got 44 here. Cool. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. This is someone also with that again. It was like there could be things within someone that they don't access because of some guilt, shame, blame, whatever. Probably something happened or somebody said something or a lot of somebody said something. But that person would never be whole without it. And again, that's where the whole like there are certain things that aren't inherently good or bad. They can tend towards good or bad heavily because of situations, societal, environmental pressures, and stuff like that. But there are poisons that can be medicinal, and there are medicines that are toxic. Good that can be used for evil, right? Not just what is deemed evil that can be used for good. It goes both ways. The Chariot has mastered both of them. And again, this is major arcana. Like to already be within the realm of the majors as the stipulation of like who approaches this initiation or whatever. It's like, okay. All right, I'm getting 4 of these. I want a clean flip or a clean fall. And yeah, clean flip or clean fall. This thing is massive. So I just pick up a section and shuffle. I feel like watching Reem has made me a better. It's made me aspire to be a better shuffler for certain. Ooh, that rare gazelle shuffle. Something. It ain't nothing like it. It ain't nothing like it. Cool. We got the first one face down. Interesting. Ominous, maybe. Not necessarily. Ooh. So we need 3 more. Yeah, I feel like usually I would try to shuffle this entire thing at once. Okay, that was the dirtiest fall, but it was unstoppable. It came out face down, it landed face down. For the magnifying glass to be here, a lot of these cards are coming out face down. I was gonna like potentially do multiple of these, but it's already been an hour and 40 minutes. Oh, we got a flip. Now I gotta look through all these to find the card that flipped. That's funny. That is funny. So 2 cards flipped over. Yeah, it was just the 2. So we got 2 face up and 2 face down. The first 2 are face down, which I actually appreciate because otherwise, bottom of the deck is the 10 of swords. The 10 of swords is the destroyer. That's who we're looking for. Cool. Love it. Also, I don't know. I think it was already muted when I mentioned this. The warrior we saw. I don't know if I made the tie-in connection yesterday. It took until the end of the video for me to make the connection to the destroyer being the 10 of swords and the SKT. But the warrior is the sun. It was the warrior, the sword, and the destroyer. We had 2 of them right there. Anyway, the reason why I laugh and why I appreciate this is the 3rd of 4th challenges is the 8 of cups. And you can see the person walking away, like walking away from this for something greater. Again, this is one of those things, and my brain operates in metaphor, like thematically, or it's like the progression of this is so clear, but the implications are like, wait, you know what I mean? The other card that was face up behind the 8 of cups is the 9 of cups. In this deck in particular, this is the shimmering veil. In the 8-bit fantasy tarot in particular, it's the concrete veil. Excuse me, this is the veil that's so thin that you can walk right through it. You see it shimmering behind him. And for him to be heading towards the shimmering veil, leaving his humanity behind to embrace his divinity. Also, we saw the magus. Again, some of this I don't remember if it was before or after I muted the video. We saw the magus, I believe, in the Vitruvian edition. It was Divinity and Man, Powers of Spirit, or something like that. Also, this is Gifts of the Spirit, which was the whole point of the destroyer purging their vessel to receive a gift from the spirit. I was like, we got final judgment, a divine revelation, and gifts of the spirit. Hello, duh, that was the point. And then this, she's pouring both of them out, meaning that they are there to be absorbed. I mean, the star is almost always pouring out water, but you get what I mean. Divinity and Man, Powers of the Spirit is the magus. Interesting. Then I'm gonna get the pull before and after the destroyer, and all the cards will be on the table, and then I guess we decide where we go from there. So I went to the gym with my gym buddy Holly yesterday, the day before yesterday. All right, I'll do 2 more. Okay. I'll give it a cut. That was a super dirty flip, that was incomplete. I think the journeyman was there, but we have the tension at the bottom of the deck with the magus and the convalescent behind it. Divine powers of the mortal spirit is the magus here. It is a fox mask. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that it's a kitsune fox mask because, like in the initiate, like in the Seven of Swords, it is the fox that hides the seventh sword. This person has the mask of the fox, meaning the divine power that they operate with is the one of the birthright that they inherited. Love that. Cool. The tension and the magus. I kind of like that the tension is here because usually, I say usually as if I know anything, usually someone ascends, when someone transcends the mortal coil, they aren't on earth anymore. And I guess you could say in the case of judgment that it makes sense, especially how Judgment Day is, right? Especially, yeah, the first one where some people go to heaven and everybody else is left on earth for what, 7 years of like, oof. And I guess it's never necessarily felt explicitly like this is a transcendence that would have someone leave earth, right? It's like to be transcendent upon the earth. And so this tension and the divine powers of the mortal spirit, it's to like hold that but still be corporeal, especially with this like one may have to leave their humanity behind to embrace their divinity. The contra naturam, it's against human, that's contra naturam, it's against human nature. This level of divinity is against human nature, whatever that means, because people are so survival centric and desire centric and whatever. I love that the first card that we saw face up was the Eight of Cups. Again, I also like it. I think I mentioned it, but I like it because it gives us context to the chariot before. It's like you already have to be whatever to be recognized as whatever. Like what? We get two challenges to like oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds beautiful. Let's see. All right, we're looking for the destroyer, the one who has purified their vessel to receive that divine gift. There's the fox again. So I was like, Kitsune mask? Yes. The one who has purified their vessel to receive the divine gift. So maybe before will be an aspect of purification, after will be an aspect of the gift. The Archangel of Healing flipped over. I thought it was an ivory shift for a second. Oh, look. That's interesting. On the other side of Apocalypse is the Archangel of Healing. Apocalypse came out with the healer at the bottom of the deck, right? But with this tension and the magus that we saw, it's like this Archangel of Healing is a person on earth. This isn't an angel pouring out waters from the heavens. It is someone on the ground providing those waters to those who would accept it, I guess. In the vein of like the one who is transcendent upon the earth, interestingly enough. And then the emperor is behind that. The emperor that holds the ankh bestowed upon them by the empress, but also the scepter that is symbolic of their power. The archangel of healing sits in the position of the king of cups. When we saw the king of cups in this deck yesterday or the day before, I mentioned it. This king holds both the cup and that symbol of authority and power that is usually seen with the emperor. And so to see someone who sits in the position of the king of cups with the emperor, interesting. It's almost like it validates retroactively, synchronizes, syncretizes. Cool. Oh my gosh. There's the Demiurge, Four of Wands. Again, it was in this deck. No, it was in the other deck because we got the Giver in this deck. It was in the Vitruvian edition where we saw the Four of Wands, the Demiurge, but it was at like to be the master of one's reality in a way that is beyond our capability now. But also, we have at the bottom of the Osho's in Tarot was that participation, Four of Wands, Four of Fire. Under this is the hallowed flame, the awakening. And I mentioned that when I reread it. Oh gosh, they just slid onto the floor. What are you doing? Why are you so slippery? This is not the kind of participation. Oh gosh. Y'all were like perfectly still. Now all of a sudden these cards want to get slick. They said it's our turn. You were supposed to use us to clarify the deck dungeon challenges. What you doing shuffling another deck? Patience. Aren't you the Oshos in tarot? Shouldn't you be patient? Hello. Anyway, the hallowed flame, Ace of Scepters, the awakening. This was at the cup with the initiate before, but now it is behind the demiurge that is behind the card up front. And what did the entry say? I'll find it again real quick. It said, the initiate has just passed through the gateway of resurrection, come out the other side into the mystic light of the sun, and now judgment day has come. Here an awakening transpires, a time of reckoning when the initiate must account for actions and fulfill final obligations. That's why I was like, oh, the Ace of Scepters is the awakening. It's the initiation to fulfill final obligations and be accountable for actions. The card that came out before the Destroyer is the Warrior, master of the mystic light. They've entered the mystic light, and now is the awakening, which is the sun. This is sun in Gemini, which the sun is in now. And then the grotesque, yes, the grotesque is behind the Destroyer. I love that the grotesque is here because this is literally what the grotesque is about. The grotesque is what makes us divine. And there's the Ebony Shield, Sanctum of Treasures. The Ebony Shield came out, I think it was 2 lives ago, as what is within our nature that aligns to whatever. So for the grotesque to be immediately behind the Ebony Shield is, again, it syncretizes or is retroactively validating what came out then. The grotesque in this deck represents what makes us divine, what makes a part of our divinity, a part of the piece of the spark that we carry, but it's one that can separate, alienate, and isolate us from others. So because of wanting to be loved and accepted or whatever, guilt, shame, blame, we hide it, we run from it. And it's only in embracing it do we fully come into our divinity, or fully begin that process at the very least, because we have to be whole within self to do that, right? You can't go through that initiation missing vital pieces to who you are. Sorry. Personal synchronicity. Cool. Also, we see it's like the star that was pouring out the water, the archangel of healing that was to be the transcendent being on earth to provide that healing after the apocalypse. It's like that's the divine aspect of this person. That's what that star is. But you, in this deck, you actually see the aspect out in the water. In the Vitruvian edition, you don't see her. I'll just show you really quick. I'm not surprised that the grotesque is here. You going in today? We going in? I didn't mute the. My number one fan is out there. I need to hurry up. I almost forgot what I was looking for a second. Yeah, the grotesque is on the other side of the Hierophant. It was the Hector, the Hierophant. When I was doing this, I feel like this was all part of what was muted that you didn't hear. But here it is again. Here you don't see the being out in the water because the Hierophant obstructs and obscures. The Hierophant positions itself to be that, which is why in this deck, the Hierophant had to be destroyed. Right? The destroyer in this deck, the divine. And that was the difference. And again, I said that, but I don't think it was on there. I think I've seen the destroyer. I may not have. Let me check real quick. It's less cards this way than the other way. Actually, in the Vitruvian edition, it is the divine that shows up to deliver whatever, to handle whatever destruction. Also, Sacred Fire is at the top of the deck. Interesting. And this is a Hierophant that is a person, especially that has been corrupted by power, authority, or leadership, that elevates themselves to a place of divinity rather than being the liaison between the divine and man. Here you see the destroyer itself showing up to destroy. Again, that papal whatever. It's the same hand sign. And we see the papal bull suppressing the papal bull as the suppressor in this deck. That's why you don't see the true face of the divine. You see the face of someone who has elevated themselves to that position. Again, to be destroyed. But in the Vitruvian or Revelations edition, this is a person. Again, on Earth. This is a person on Earth who is one with their spiritual whatever. Their 2 arms are physical, 4 arms from the spirit that does that. The healing of the apocalypse was done by someone on Earth. And it feels like that came out at some point, not necessarily recently. Like there are some problems of man that need be solved by humanity. And you could say that it is the return of Christ consciousness. You can say it's the second coming. You can say it's all the star seeds or whatever. It's humans that carry that aspect of divinity to do what must be done. But since technically it's a human, then it's like it's acceptable. It doesn't count as divine intervention if it's a human that does it, even if that human is so intimately connected to the divine. Right? And you see that relationship here in this grotesque. Also, we have the warrior and the destroyer together. I love that. The grotesque is also the reason why I mentioned yesterday I know yesterday I was like, I think it was with the sword being the weapon of the warrior, title of the destroyer. But because I was using the well known alchemy, I said the grotesque or the despicable, because the despicable face is in the. One second. I gotta see where she's going. I gotta know. It's fine. Let me finish this. That's why I said yesterday, like the grotesque, the despicable. Again, I'm not surprised that the cards have come out as they have. Honestly, where they needed, yes. Why? Because I like the confirmation. I like the visible confirmation. You know what I mean? Also, like I said in the beginning, I may think no, believe what I think no one believe, but I could also be wrong. I'm human just like anybody else. So I like to leave myself the opportunity to be wrong. That's why I was like, if I'm wrong or if we're not meant to look at this, like Ivory Shield, please make yourself known. But the card of divine revelation came out with the magnifying glass for the book. You know what I mean? With the bear that was coming. Actually, this bear is active in the middle of winter. In a time of hibernation, the bear is active. Also, the chariot was the significator, what signifies to whoever the keeper of this is that someone is ready. Also, the warrior is here before the destroyer. The warrior was the act of purification. The grotesque is the reward, is the gift after. So again, it's like it's someone who's already doing it. But again, because of the story of the Archangel Commander, I shouldn't be surprised. Because even in the story of the Archangel Commander, before Archangel Michael trained someone in how to use their sword, they had to use their own sword to solve one of their own problems first. In the story, someone sought Archangel Michael for a reason. Archangel Michael said, "Sorry, I don't have my sword. I can't help you. But my sword has fallen to earth. If you find my sword, you can solve your own problem." So the person goes on a journey, they find the sword, they use the sword, and then at the conclusion, they return the sword to Archangel Michael. And they're like, "Archangel Michael, thank you so much for lending me your sword, kinda, for me to do this, but here it is." And Archangel Michael's like, "What are you talking about? That's not my sword." And they're like, "What? You said you didn't have your sword, and that's why you couldn't help me, because you didn't have your sword. So I had to go and find your sword to do whatever." And Archangel Michael's like, "I'm Archangel Michael. I'm the Archangel Commander. Do you think I would be without my sword?" And you're like, "That's what I said." "But you said you didn't have it." And then he's like, "That's your sword. And now that you've used it, let me tell you, let me train you, let me whatever." So even in that story, before someone was trained in the thing, they already had to have used it. They already had to have shown themselves to be capable of doing whatever, which I guess is one of the most surefire ways to eliminate that chance and that risk. If someone would come into a little bit of power, or someone would come into a little bit of revelation, or someone would get a piece and parcel, no matter how small, a mote of whatever knowledge, and go completely off the rails, that's a sure sign that they wouldn't be able to handle the full Monty, the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even give you a crumb without you going on some destructive sugar rush. There's no way you can even have a slice of this cake. Hello? Type energy. So, again, because of that, I shouldn't be surprised that the warrior, like, you already have to be a warrior to complete, or you learn to be a warrior. You master the mystic light in the process of receiving, preparing the vessel to receive this divine gift. So maybe the gift is some kind of contact, or the gift is some kind of because also within readings of the past, however long, there's been like a divine patron. There's been some aspect of divinity or some aspect of the divine, god, goddess, that's like that gives us the stamp of approval to go through whatever initiation, to be granted or gifted whatever insight or whatever, right? The connection between the dragon and the weapon from the booster pack 2 lives ago, like the dragon selects and picks us more so than we pick the dragon, and we get our connect. There's some manifestation of that connection that helps us do whatever. But it's almost like it's possible to have a patron and not know who it is, which plays back into the live from what, 3 lives ago. It's almost an aspect of that, like the way that we impact the world is for us, and the way that the world is impacted by us is for the world to decide, right? It feels like that plays into that. My brain already that already slipped, but it feels like it plays into an aspect of that. But maybe at the completion is like undeniable, like, oh, this is who the patron is, or whatever. I don't know. Like, we've been past the knowing of whatever. We've been well into what does this mean? Take it as it resonates territory. But it's interesting again to receive one's birthright, to receive one's birthright of divinity, one's divine birthright, one has to already be operating in the divine order, in divine order, but as themselves. The chariot is here, which is a, excuse me, which is a balance of both man and the divine. Before this process of, before one can receive the gift, in this process of purification, they have to become a master of the mystic light. Like, again, in both cases and scenarios, someone's already operating within the realm of the major arcana before they get access to what lies beyond human capability. And typically within the major arcana, like, we're not the majors. We are the fool, but the magician is the magician. We're not the magician. Strength is strength. We're not strength. We're the fool. And from the magician to the world, we learn at every step. We take on aspects of the magician, the empress, the lovers, the hermit, the hierophant, everybody, but we never become them. But in both cases, the purification of the vessel to receive the gift and what one must do to be recognized as being worthy of receiving their divine birthright, they already got to be operating within the realm of divinity, which I shouldn't be surprised about also, because on the other channel, there was like a seed from, I forget the whole context, but there was like a seed from the heavens. And it was like, well, how do we get this heavenly seed to blossom and to take root, germinate, blossom, and thrive on earth? You have to give it conditions of heaven for this heavenly seed to blossom on earth. And it's like, but but again, I feel like it ties into that whole, like, those who seek the power will never find it, even if it's not for malevolent reason, even if it's for something that, like, to protect or whatever. You already have to be it to find it, to see it. And at that point, it's like, well, you wouldn't even need it. You know what I mean? It's like, what do I even need this for if I can do it myself? Which also may be a test of one's humanity or attachment to circumstance and earthly progression of things happening. So I still have the Oshos and Tarot, and I still have 2 challenges that aren't revealed. So We'll say the challenges of the Eight of Cups are the Eight of Cups and the Nine of Cups, and the challenges of the Chariot are these two face down cards. In purging the vessel to receive a divine gift, maybe the divine gift is also authority. Maybe it's the authority to act on behalf of this aspect of divinity on earth. Because again, it felt like the Archangel of Healing with Apocalypse on the Revelation side was a person that stepped into that role. On the Vitruvian side, it's like it's the angel herself. It's the divine itself that does everything on the Vitruvian side. But for a current day and age, divinity can't just manifest on earth and solve problems or whatever. People have to take care of people's stuff. I feel like I used the in between tarot last year when I was still at my old place. Because was it between the Page of Wands and Knight of Wands, or between the Knight of Wands and Page of Wands that had that graduation energy? I don't know. Interesting. Cool. The first challenge is the Seven of Coins. Again, another seven. The Seven of Coins that is right here. Right? Should I be surprised that the Seven of Coins is here? The Seven of Coins and the Seven of Cups, I believe, were the first two cards that came out, and the Seven of Swords was the third and final one. Also, again, 7 for 7, the Chariot. 7 being that spiritual number. I believe I said that before. Um, before I muted the mic, when I was like, oh, I could do 6. When I was debating, should I pull 4 cards or 6 cards to represent the trials? And I was like, I could do 6 cards because there are 6 swords, but I was like, technically, it would be 7. The spirituality of 7 is like the upper limitation of humanity. But then beyond that, when we enter realms of divine knowing or understanding, that's like the 8th. So again, shouldn't be surprised, but here we are. Let's read this challenge. The first, but this is a challenge of receiving. So all of the Pentacles challenges are challenges of receiving. But we'll see. Why not? The first challenge is the challenge of the Seven of Coins. The Seven of Wands. Not the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Pentacles. 7 of Coins. So this room contains a chest. This room contains a chest containing a number of gold points equal to 7 times a D100. The door unlocks when the coins are removed from the chest. So we pick a random number. Hey Google, pick a random number between 1 and 100. It's 11. You don't read the number? Okay, I'll show you, I guess. Google said 11. 11 times 7 is 77. We have 44 on the table, being the magnifying glass. 55 was the vision in the wild unknown, alchemy. We had new vision that's reflective of the vision quest and the mystical shaman oracle. I don't know what number the vision quest is. I believe we actually saw it last time I used it, though. It didn't come out, but it was like at the cut when I was shuffling or something. So the challenge is to receive 77 coins. Oh, and I was literally just talking about how 7 is a spiritual number. Cool. So in the tens place, or in between 1 and 100 for me, the ones place is the self, the tens place is the divine. And then when we get into hundreds, it's like the ones is the physical, the tens is the mental, and the hundreds is the spiritual. So this is truly the top, the limit of human understanding. Not only the limit of human understanding within oneself and humanity, but divinity in terms of humanity and humanity in terms of divinity, because both sit at a 7 in the 77. So it's almost like first is to align to this chariot energy. That's the first challenge. To receive good and bad and to come to a truer knowing and understanding, which is probably why intuition and discernment was a factor of the test, right? The mother of cups that discerns the vision. The second challenge of the chariot is the ace of chalices. It was in reverse, but you know, interesting. What is the challenge of the ace of chalices? The challenge of the ace of chalices is different than that of all of the other chalices. The challenge of the ace of chalices reads: two glass chalices stand on plinths set 10 feet apart in the center of the room. Both contain sparkling clear liquid. At the bottom of each, oh my gosh. Okay, it's fine. I'll just read it. At the bottom of each, there is a silver key that is clearly visible. The door in this room has two keyholes, and both keys are needed to unlock the door. To retrieve a key, a creature must drink the entire contents of a chalice. The key disappears if the liquid is spilled or anything enters the liquid, including magical effects such as Mage Hand. If the liquid is spilled or otherwise disturbed, the chalice magically refills after 6 seconds and the key reappears inside the chalice. What's interesting here is the stipulation. It didn't matter how the coins got out of the chest to unlock the door in the challenge of the Seven of Pentacles. Once all of the coins are removed, the door unlocks. It's not like you have to pocket the money or you can't use magic to lift the coins out of the chest. But with this chalice, you have to drink the entirety of the contents. Again, giving Hercules every last drop energy. But this is every last drop to go from divine to man rather than every last drop to be rendered completely mortal. Or maybe it's both because it's two cups. Who knows? The chalice on the left bears the word boon. Drinking all the liquid from this chalice gives the drinker advantage on wisdom checks and wisdom saving throws for the next 24 hours. Wisdom is what? The king of chalices evaluated, right? Cool. Sorry. I'm just like, if my number one fan is going somewhere, like, I'm not trying to get left behind. You know what I mean? Speaking of left behind and Makaido, the chalice on the right bears the word Bane. Drinking all the liquid from this chalice gives the drinker disadvantage on wisdom checks and wisdom saving throws for 24 hours. If one creature drinks both, the effects cancel each other out. What I love about this challenge is, again, like that's the sun and the moon on this chariot. That's like that devil and hierophant energy on that came out with the Three of Pentacles. That is the grotesque here, right? And I was saying it with the grotesque. There are things because of guilt, shame, blame, what others have said, or what other people may think, or what we think ourselves. There are parts of ourselves that we try to hide, or whatever. There are things that we have access to that we don't, and ultimately, we render our own humanity incomplete, right? Like how can a vessel receive what is divine when the vessel itself isn't whole? You don't pour water into a sieve expecting it to hold anything. You pour water into a sieve usually when you want to drain the water out of something, knowing, understanding that it's not going to hold any of that water. It's designed to hold the least amount possible, right? And again, that 77 coins representing receiving a more complete understanding of one's own human and divine nature. And but the thing with the boon and the bane also is a lot of times either we tend towards like self-importance or self righteousness or wanting to appear to be something, and we only drink the cup of the boon. We get one of the keys and we frustratingly try to use one key to unlock this door. Or we take a route of a lower self esteem or self deprecation and we only drink the bane. We only see the worst parts of ourselves and we don't allow our strengths to shine. There's no balance. Or we downplay our weaknesses and sell our strengths. We overcompensate. Both must be ingested completely for the keys to appear, and then the door must be unlocked for us to walk through. If you drink both, it cancels each other out, right? Meaning it's like you don't have to drink the bane and worry if you'll be so whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Because you also drink the boon. It's about having that complete understanding. Ones and tens is also yin and yang. Yin yang came out with action. I mentioned that when the chariot came out. I was probably muted then, but we saw yin yang action in fourth chakra Archangel Raphael as how does this golem even recognize authority? And again, the chariot is here. So I'm glad that it's as, synchronistic and it ties together as well as it does, because that was literally the point. But I feel like this is less than helpful because, again, it's like you must already be, or you must already act as if you have whatever before you're granted whatever. Again, it makes sense. So that's the chariot. To receive it all and to have the wisdom to sort of like integrate it. The challenge of the Eight of Cups is, I don't remember. Oh, yeah. The challenge of the Eight of Cups and the Nine of Cups are going to be similar to the challenge of the Ace of Cups. So in the Eight of Cups, there are 8 cups, and only one of them contains the key to unlock the door. You don't get the key until you drink all of the contents of the chalice, just like on the Ace of Chalices. If you spill it or use any other kind of means besides ingesting it and having that liquid go through your body to try to remove the liquid, the key will disappear and the cup will refill. So you can end up having to drink more than a chalice's worth if you spill it or you drink a little bit and try to get smart or clever, and then the key disappears, it refills entirely. And that could be an aspect of like the cyclic nature that we feel in the journey. Like we go in these cycles and like we're learning the same lessons over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, well, if you don't get the key and unlock the door, if you don't complete that challenge, then of course you're going to revisit it in the future, especially if you declare, claim, navigate, operate in a way to get something that is beyond that challenge. If you're manifesting abundance and abundance for you lies beyond a certain challenge that you can't overcome, every time you manifest that abundance, every time you do whatever, of course you're going to come upon the same challenge. You know what I mean? Anyway, there are 8 chalices, and then after there are 8 chalices, there are 9. And that's one of 8 that has a key. Then it's one of 9 that has a key. We have to pick the right chalice, or you can drink them all. But unlike the Ace of Chalices in the Deck Dungeon Challenge, um, if you drink the wrong chalice, you suffer like cold damage or something like that. So it actually does hurt you to drink the wrong chalice. And you can say that it hurts the psyche, right? Because failure doesn't feel good. And for most people, every time they fail, they're less likely to try again. So this one rewards stamina and perseverance, right? If you have enough hit points, health points to take the damage, and if you have enough drive to keep drinking, if you get the wrong one, then eventually you'll get there, right? But you can use either investigation or intelligence to discern which cup is the right cup, right? 8 and 9 both have a DC of 18. So, to retrieve the key, you must drink the entire contents of the correct chalice, which can be identified with a wisdom or intelligence check. The DC depends on the number of chalices. The DC is 18 for either 8 or 9 chalices. The limit of one's wisdom or intelligence is 20. So 9 to 90%, a 90% chance of failure, right? Drinking from an incorrect chalice deals 2d4 cold damage to a drinker. Drinking the entire contents of the correct chalice heals the drinker 2d8 hit points and causes the key to appear in the empty chalice. The key does not appear if the liquid is not consumed. Now, what's interesting is you have to drink the entire contents of the correct chalice to be healed. But how this is written, if you drink even a little bit from the incorrect chalice, you take that damage. So, theoretically, if you are in tune enough with yourself and with your body, because it's written that way, it's almost like you cumulatively, well, no, because you take the damage. I don't know at what point, because again, it didn't say once you drink the entirety of the chalice, then you take the damage. So if you could drink it and realize, like, oh, like, girl, I'm taking damage. This cup ain't it. I can learn this lesson real quick. Okay. I see what's going on here. Okay. I can see what's happening. I see where my fault is. I see what's for me to learn. And I don't have to take this lesson. I ain't got to get to the end of the test to realize that I need to go back and study. You know what I mean? I don't know what other like metaphor to put with that, but it seems like again, either you are perceptive or enough in wisdom or in intelligence to discern which one is the right one, but you can also be in touch and in tune with yourself. I'm sure you would start to feel the effects of that 2d4 cold damage. I guess it depends, because if it's only 2 damage, then it wouldn't hit as hard as like if it's 8 damage. Anyway, from that point, it is a matter of wisdom or intelligence, because if you pass the challenge of the Ace of Chalices, you receive both a boon and bane to your wisdom. There is no benefit or loss. If you only drink the chalice of the boon, you would have a advantage on wisdom checks. And so, if you could somehow manage to take the challenge of the 8 and 9 of chalices, you would have advantage on perception. But it's still a DC of 18. It's still a 90% chance of failure if each face of the die appears like with equal probability. It's still a 90% chance or less, technically, because you can roll 18, 19, or 20. You got to meet it or beat it. I'm sorry. Allow me my immature moment. Okay. Um, oh my gosh, my brain. I'm so sorry. It's yeah. So technically it's like 17 out of 20. 17 is the healer. 18, 19, or 20, but for simplicity's sake, we'll say less, a slightly less, between 85 and 90, right? Every 5? Yeah, 20 times 5 is 100, so it will be 85%. There's an 85% chance of failure. So even if you have the wisdom advantage from drinking the cup of the boon, it goes from 85% to what, half of that maybe? I forget how percentages work in this moment. The point is, though, if you weren't wise enough to drink both chalices to complete the challenge of the Ace of Chalices, I don't know how much wisdom, like how reliable one's wisdom would be in these later challenges. Meaning that at this point, we may, maybe we don't. Maybe we are at base wise enough, intuitive enough, discerning enough to identify this. Maybe like we don't need the blessing of increased chance of being wise because we are naturally wise. Or maybe it's intelligence, or maybe we're lucky, right? Sometimes luck is better. Some say luck is a skill in and of itself, especially knowing how to use that luck, right? Anyway, again, I shouldn't be so surprised that the actual challenges in the deck dungeon challenge are challenges of wisdom. The first challenge was just to receive, to acknowledge the truth as the truth, maybe. Receive those 77 coins, and it unlocks. What's also interesting is because the King of Chalices was the challenge that came out on the side of those who would receive this birthright or whatever. Um, you ask the King of Chalices 3 yes or no questions. And if the questions are good enough, the king recognizes your wisdom. The king recognizes wisdom in the questions that are asked, not the answers that are given to a question being asked. But it's interesting that there are 3 questions and we have 3 challenges here. Only 2 of them really challenges of wisdom. But I guess you could say the Ace of Chalices is a challenge of wisdom because there again, it's human nature to either drink more of the boon or the bane and to try to proceed. Either we inflate our ego or we take the route of self-deprecation and believing that we're not good enough for this or that or anything. I actually saw a reel on Instagram a few days ago that was like, if you call yourself self-aware, but you only pick out your flaws and you don't also acknowledge what you're great at, then you're just like hating on yourself. And I was like, whoa, she came for me. What? But I think that's also one of the lessons that I've been learning a lot within the past few months. I mean, I kind of like I was exposed to the lesson at the end of last year, and then I was learning to get a more complete picture like this year. Cool. And I feel like we don't really need the Osho's in Tarot because this was straightforward enough. So I'm not sure how we're going to use it. Maybe that's why the cards were sliding off. Like, yeah, my contribution was creativity and new vision. I'll give it 3 shuffles. 2, 1, and a kite. And I'm just going to pull the top 4 cards. Clarifying the 7 of coins, the challenge of receiving is friendliness. The 2 of emotions, maybe. I love this. You see the 2 trees that are merging together. You see the orange between the red and the yellow. I feel like that, again, low hanging fruit, but that validates it's like it's both divinity, like from the mortal perspective, and mortality from a divine perspective. It's the merging and the complete receiving of all of who one is, both light and dark, good and bad, both divine and man. And it's that complete understanding that allows someone to move forward past this one challenge. There's nothing that says we have to do these challenges in order, also. So, right, maybe someone is really good at like the chalices thing, but they don't necessarily hit the understanding and or they don't receive what is for them to receive. Clarifying the Ace of Chalices is the 7 of the mind, which is politics. I love that this clarifies this because, again, I feel like that plays into the whole. There are some that would rather go hard on the boon to overcompensate for what they deem as a weakness, and there are some that would go hard into the self deprecation and never acknowledge their own strengths. It's an internal politics. It's an internal and external politics, you could say. And it's all within the mind of the individual. You could say that the snake is here to like the politician is the one who attempts to play politics with the mind of other people and not just within their own mind when it comes to the 7 of air. But the challenge, if you are the only person going through your challenge, you have to receive the boon and the bane. Some of us will drink the bane and put the boon on others. I'm not as good as that person, or I'm not as whatever as the other person. I'm like way down here and other people are way up there. Some people will do the opposite. I'm better than you because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm better than that person because of blah, blah, blah. They will drink the boon or the bane and try to force the bane or boon upon others. But we are the only ones that really go through our own lives. If you have a twin or if you're part of like triplets or whatever, girl, I don't know. I would argue it's the same, but I'm not a twin. I wouldn't understand. But we have to do the bane and the boon. Again, a more complete self awareness. And this is a self awareness that is based within the self. This isn't not comparative awareness. And it's not comparative worth. It's not, I have more than this person, so I should be grateful for what I have. Or I don't have as much as that person, so I'm blah, 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 whatever. It's truly within the self, which again is a part of that 77. It's this friendliness between the self rather than this politics, internal politics to try to whatever. Clarifying the 8 of chalices, we have postponement with the 4 of the mind. Trying to not make that decision or trying not to walk away. Not wanting to make that trip or journey. Right. And again, because the tension and the other cards came out, to me, and I could be wrong, but to me, I don't think we truly have to walk away. I think there's a point of integration at some point rather than an abandonment. And a lot of this would point to integration rather than abandonment. But it's like that's a conclusion that we reach within ourselves. I'm listening to He Who Fights with Monsters. And there are a few times where they're put in impossible situations. They're trying to prove themselves and they're presented with a situation that is dangerous. But their reasoning is also being tested, right? If someone is so keen on proving who they are that they put themselves in an impossible situation or in an unnecessary danger, then it's almost like even if they do succeed, they're marked down on their judgment and they're told that they're not ready. But it's only in realizing that the test was never about me successfully doing this. This was a test. This test in particular was a test of judgment. And then, like, we're not going to do this. We're going to do it. And then they deliberate and they're like, oh my gosh, like we were never supposed to do it. And it's like, oh, no. The main character immediately picks up on it. He's also like older than the other characters. He had a late start. He's from a different world. It's not his fault. But he's like, no, I don't believe it. And like he knew it immediately, which is why he uncharacteristically didn't say anything. But we see another case and situation where it's like the test isn't like you're not actually supposed to do this. There is a point of integration, but we have to find that line and that limit for ourselves. And you could say that if we do choose one or the other, again, it's like by that point, I don't know the chronology of this, but how I laid the cards out and the intention was by the point you encounter the 8 of Cups, you're already the Chariot. So you've already fully light and dark, masculine and feminine, yin and yang, accepted yourself. There's nothing to prove. And at that point, you should know that integration is possible. So that 8 of Cups isn't truly one of abandonment. It can read that way, but even when I read it that way, it's like it doesn't seem like it's that way. The cards were like, it's not that way. We can postpone that leaving, that abandonment. Deciding to integrate rather than abandon is not the same as this 4 of the mind postponement. That's avoiding a choice or decision. The result can look the same, but the choice and decision in postponement hasn't been made. The choice and decision in integration or in taking both has been made. The 9 of Chalice is turning in. Nine of chalices challenges turning in, which is four of emotions. Oh, seven of the mind, seven of swords. Oh my gosh, I didn't even catch that. I only caught this because we got another four. Four. We got postponement, four of the mind, turning in, four of emotions. We saw participation, the four of fire or whatever. We've seen the four of pentacles in the conservator, but we haven't seen the four of rainbows in the Yoshos and tarot. I like this. So this nine of cups again is also the shimmering veil, right? And it's like this veil is so thin you can like stick a hand through it or you can walk through it. It's not the concrete veil of the 8-bit fantasy tarot. The key with turning in though is this isn't a veil that you walk through. It seems like the distance between this person and the veil will never close. No matter how far they walk towards the veil, they will never pierce it. The trick is to like stand still and pull the veil like over yourself type energy. So it's giving the standstill in the mystical shaman oracle cards, which I guess I'll go pull before and after because why not? I'm not going to do final cards. I am going to take this down off the live. The preparation was the point. It doesn't feel like final cards are necessarily a part of it. And again, I feel like this is just almost 3 hours of confirmation, but hey, it's helpful. It's nice. I can't say that I'm surprised by anything, but it is a lot of disparate pieces coming together, which again, I'm not necessarily surprised by. Of course, there's the go ahead. Like, yeah, you're not going to say anything more than you've already said anyway. Pull the cards. It's like, okay. Oh, this is not shuffling. These are not shuffling at all. You see, it keeps like doing this. Completion in the council. Whoa. Okay. 9 and 11. 11 and 9. 11 was the base number. So 7 councils. Someone has to have the approval of 7 councils to pass that. It was 77 coins, 7 times 11. There are also 7 chakras, right? So there's a council at the root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, third eye, throat, and crown. And you have to pass the council at each of those, which also makes sense because the chakras being the chakra, that gives the energy of the wellspring, right? You go through the 7 chakras and then you find the source that feeds all of them. You find the source inside because what prana comes from outside of the body. And we take in prana, but we find a source inside of ourselves that can generate prana internally rather than relying on ambient prana. And when you turn that on, that's when you get this interaction between the internal and external that is like vastly different. It reminds me of this anime I was watching that I actually talked about, where in a certain kingdom, they rely on internal magic, but then they do like an exchange program. They go to another kingdom, and this kingdom specializes in using ambient magic. There's typically more magic outside of a person than inside of the person, so it's like a massive boost. But they learn to use both internal and external resources. It makes me think of circumstance, and all of this is about overcoming circumstance. When the internal circumstance outweighs the external circumstance, then whatever fluctuation is happening in the world, in the environment, in magic, in access to the divine, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Because when it's internally sourced, it's like it's more reliable. I can't believe I didn't think about internal circumstances like this whole time, because that's literally what this is. The internal circumstance is greater than the external. All of being, so much of being human is about external circumstance and adapting to external circumstance. This is the awakening of the divine within, that limitless power, right? The cards that came out are the Rainmaker, which we've already seen, the Ancient Ones, the Luminous Warrior, the Arrow, which again we saw, the Jaguar, and the Seer. Interesting. So we have the Jaguar and Seer in addition to the Arrow, the Ancient Ones and the Luminous Warrior in addition to the Rainmaker. I love that the Jaguar and the Seer is here because, again, the Jaguar can represent what is dark or shameful of our nature. And it's for us to like integrate it and to be whole within self. Or the Jaguar can just keep stalking about in the dark and causing problems. Cool. And then the Seer is there for obvious reasons, right? The Mother of Cups, it's that discernment piece, right? The vision is one part. Here's Vision Quest, by the way. Oh, it's not at the bottom of the deck anymore. Vision Quest and the Vision. Vision Quest is number 60. Looks like New Vision in resembles in a lot of ways the New Vision in the Yoshi's Tarot. Who am I looking for? I already forgot. When I see it, I'm sure I'll know. Stand Still. There it is. It's in between the Witness and Thunder. There's been so much of lightning, but what of thunder? Thunder is heard, lightning is seen. It triggers a different sense in the Witness. Wind and Pachamama are before and after. Is that important? Was that significant in some way? This Witness is interesting. The Witness giving me obviously similar vibes to the aspect of the divine that is out on the water. Maybe at this point it reveal again. It feels like it reveals itself. And there are so many aspects of the divine. Like I was talking with my mom a while ago. Oh wow! I was talking with my mom a while ago, a year and a half ago, because it was we went to a temple, and um, it's almost like there are even in the monotheistic religion of Christianity, right, where there is one God. There, like the names of the angels mean different things, and it's usually the blank of God or God's something. So I was like, in a way, you could draw parallels to a polytheistic, a belief system where there is more than one God, as like these different divine expressions or these different aspects of divinity manifested as individual entities, rather than there being one God and all of these angels that are like the sword of God, divine judgment, blah blah blah, compassion, healing, rather than like all of this other stuff of the same general. And even in at least some polytheistic belief systems, there is still a prime source, right? So there is still something that birthed all of these other aspects of divinity. There is still something that transcends all of that, that unites it. Why did I bring that up here? Oh yeah, maybe it was in this like this Witness type thing, right? Maybe like you're really kind and compassionate, and the compassionate heart of the divine or God, some aspect of divinity associated with compassion is the one that co-signed your whatever, and then you're confronted by that aspect of compassion. I don't know. The witness could also be an evaluator of the one who watches us go through these trials and initiations and overcome these challenges. And it's a recognition that finds us with turning in and the nine of chalices. And you see all those could be like all the aspects of the divine and spirit right there. All those witnesses. It's a recognition that finds us as we overcome. The veil envelops us. We don't pierce the veil by chasing it. To chase the veil is no different than chasing power or chasing leadership or chasing whatever else. It's no different than contending. Chasing and contending are the same. Rather than fighting, you're racing or whatever. Also, in He Who Fights Monsters, I was listening this morning to it. The main character has done several quests that guarantee him or that warrant him an additional reward, but he's never requested an additional reward. And he's asked why. And he was like, I figured that if I've done something that was worthy of the good stuff and not just more money, because I'm not adventuring for the money, I figured that if I'd done something that warranted an additional reward, like y'all would let me know and you would give it to me. I figure it wouldn't be something that I'd have to ask for. And in that, he's right. I guess they just didn't. They were like most people do it for the money. Why haven't you requested extra money? Like you go on these, you've proven, like if a quest is more difficult than it seems or more difficult than they're informed of, then they're entitled to additional compensation. Most people adventure for the money or are money focused, are appreciative of enough of the money that they take it, especially if they rightfully deserve it or earned it. But he wants the good stuff. And that's the stuff that's handed out usually on merit. So if it's handed out on merit, and if I've earned it, you'd give it to me. I don't have to request it. And that kind of thinking carries through here with the nine of chalices turning in. You could be in the standstill and be witnessed and recognized or whatever. Chasing the veil doesn't get you any closer to it. If this aspect of the divine or if whatever is to be given to you to acknowledge your exemplary whatever, it will be given. Cool. And the nine of cups is associated with our desires. The desires of your heart will be fulfilled. You don't necessarily have to chase them, but again, the test and the trial here is associated with wisdom or intelligence. Either one. It's either associated with wisdom or intelligence, right? If your desire is something that you have to put energy and effort into for it to manifest, then obviously, it's probably going to require some energy and effort. But if your desire is like receiving something, you can receive something in a number of ways. And if your intuition is telling you you don't have to go above and beyond, continue doing what you're doing, do this at this time, do that at this other time, in between, just chill, keep your vibration high or whatever. That's it. So cool. Again, ultimately, I feel like this is less than helpful because, like, I feel like it doesn't illuminate anything. I feel like I haven't necessarily said anything that I haven't said before. What is interesting, though, is again, before you receive the gift of the spirit in this purging of the vessel, you are already a master of the mystic light, already the sun, already the warrior. And to be recognized as being worthy of receiving this divine birthright, you already conduct yourself in a way that aligns with the divine. or you're already acting out this birthright. But again, I guess like if it is a birthright or if it is something that is truly within us, it doesn't require anything for us to access rather than for us to find it and access it. Finding it was the challenge of the Seven of Pentacles, truly receiving it. So cool. Cool. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe the Ivory Shield's gonna come out and say that. Like, I shouldn't do this. Ivory. It's like, girl, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But it is cool though, regardless. I think this also, because to receive the sword is one thing, to use it and have the wisdom of when and where to use it is another. There is a little bit of a hidden call to action, but to act with wisdom and discernment, right? And again, it's that whole like there are certain earthly human problems that have to be resolved on earth by humans. There are certain things that divine intervention would be less than helpful for, or as societies and civilizations, we would just keep throughout history repeating the same thing over and over and over and over, never as a collective truly learning whatever. If we always relied upon divine intervention to fix things or to do whatever. And so, obviously, as one designated by the divine to do whatever, to at least every now and then be the human that shows up and does something differently or that aligns with the truth of divinity. The Luminous Warrior is here. Oh, the Luminous Warrior. Ha ha. Master of the Mystic Light Warrior, the Sun. Cool. Yeah. And it's still the Destroyer. The Luminous Warrior is still absolutely capable of destruction. Because destruction in and of itself isn't inherently good or bad. Right? It's what is destroyed and for what purpose. And sometimes how. Sometimes it is how. All right. Well, thanks, Holly, for stopping by. I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, when you find it's been almost 3 hours, two and what a half, or one and a half of which you've actually, well, like 2 hours and 20 minutes, you've actually been able to hear me. So, all right. Bye. I think Ether Drift is next, that last booster pack. After like doing this, I feel like, yeah, let's go for the booster pack. Why not? And then after that, who knows?